Back again. Didn't kill myself yesterday. I cut down 3 big fir trees in the front yard. They're dying. Trying to clear out some of this land a little more. And then I had all my brush pile going. Get this one. Had all the branches and I'm burning them up as I'm going. Weather permitted it. And I was underneath this tree branch and snapping off, and a burning ember hits me right in the eye, and my eyelid rolled up and folded it up into my frickin' eye socket while it was singeing away my eyeball. God, it frickin' was a stinger. Anyway, lucky it wasn't in my bare eyeball, I guess, right? What are the chances? Burning ember hits you in the eyelid and it rolls up inside and you can't figure out where it is. It just hurts like hell. But anyway, so now it hurts every time I blink. Now, nothing overly new to report this morning or to rant about. Still working away on the book cover. A little challenging at times. It keeps coming back as rejected. But we'll get it. Now, who am I going to list? Who are we going to hear from today? I don't know. But let's get right into it right away. I got a lot to do, and talked to some friends in Alabama. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to pull off going to Texas and Alabama, and maybe even stretching it out a little further, possibly. All right, there's a heads up for anyone in those states as well. Maybe we'll see, right? How I can, who I can get to. Now, let's carry on. Get more heard from. Howdy, Steve and friends. No title on this, I don't think. Oh, this is titled The Flash, The Blur. Howdy, Steve and friends. My stories, like some others, started early in life at 10 or 12. I started long distance, 8 to 13 miles one-way hiking into the Bitterroot Selway Wilderness from the Bitterroot Valley. Have been on endless exploration camps into the area from 3 with parents. Always had a dog or a horse or both. I'm in agreement. And have always said myself, take a horse or a dog, they won't lie. When I was 16 hunting in the Bitterroot Valley, I had a sweet piece of state land before On X ruined too many spots. That must be an app or something, mapping app. Now, hunting a tree stand that had been productive for years, a pitch black night, getting. All right, so you've typed with a bit of a slang, getting. Into my stand 2 hours after daylight. I just got over fence when I realized that the 2 horses who shared the state ground were sounding like they were in a bear trap. So you meant that 2 horses that were running around state land and it sounded like they were in a bear trap. And all of a sudden, in the blackness towards me, was a thump, 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 thump. I turned and ran 25 yards and hurdled the fence in time to hear the biggest snort behind me. The pickup was pointing towards the fence, so I hopped in, turned on the lights, and nothing. I told the story before, but as a moose story. Same year, had just stuck a white-tailed doe out of the same tree stand. Took her straight to elk camp for meat. First and only day of camp that we hunted up Burnt Fork, Bitterroot Valley. 2 dads and their 13-year-olds, and I at 16. Long story short, 1 dad and child below me, about 300 yards. 1 dad and child above me, 300 yards or better. Archery elk pushing side hill. About midway through the hunt, pushing towards a ridge to meet on, all of a sudden, just past a small thicket, I had what sounded like 2 bulls fighting, and I mean tearing it up. Infrasound elk bugle. Put me stare on my ass, feeling lost and confused. Okay, I think he meant infrasound elk bugle put me flat on my ass. Probably, feeling lost and confused. I sat and listened for a few minutes, and they quit. And I told myself, kill 1, and pushed through the thicket. No tracks, no rubs, no displacement, displacement of ground, soil in the area heard. The bugle literally bounced off my insides and immediately made me sit. Who sits when a bugling bull is within 50 yards, much less two bulls? Others heard nothing. Okay, holy cow. So I'm reading this a little awkward, but I'm reading it as it's typed. So I guess what you mean is you thought you heard an elk bugle, but it slammed you to your ass. Said no elk hunter ever, right? Agreeing with you. It's odd. Bass Lakes, Bitterroot, Selway Wilderness. Seaway? Sorry, there's typos. I'm sorry. March, spring fever, 18 years old. My friend Brad Duffy and I had it bad that winter. March 1st, packed the 8 miles into ice fish, a high mountain lake. Did great. 2 days and 3 nights. Lots of fish and just great to be out in the woods. Last night, it snowed big, and in the middle of the night, at the exact same time, we both drew 45s from under our pillows and said simultaneously, "Did you hear that?" Pistols trained on the same spot. That spot we followed around our tent for a few minutes with pistols, of course. Strange thing is, after awakening, we never heard a thing, but followed it around our tent for minutes. Listening to the people since your hunting stories, the stories from the people brought these back. I guided in the Bob for 10 seasons. Forgot to mention, I'm also a ranch kid, so I've been tracking since before I could read. That's what we do. Since I was 18, I've worked in the woods in various roles. One that stuck is as a forestry tech. For over 22 years now, I've been falling, thinning, burning, rehabilitating, and block layouts to the flash or blur, usually in the peripheral vision to my accounts anyway. When folks talk about incredible speed, so far all estimates have been way off. I've seen them several times in this speed. Gray, brown, black, and always a blur. I looked it up. The flash went Mach 1. This is what I've seen multiple times. Like we all know, if they wanted us, it would be child's play. I have more, but due to limited typing time, I'll cut her short for now. I'll be back. We have your back, Pard. Keep it up. You have an army. Thanks for everything. Did you say use your name or no? Hold on a minute. See how I get paranoid about that, right? All right, you didn't say not to use your name. Eli Hinson. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. And I want to hear back from you as soon as you can. Please do. Please. Send it back in. More in, I mean. Yeah, if these beings or whatever else is running around there wanted our ass, it's all over. It's all over. You'd have to be so lucky, even if just a human being, man. You know, sometimes I've been in the woods a handful of times going through thick brush, and I've had guys with me, American friends, well, friends that I made through guiding, we're in Vietnam. I'm around one particular man. We're talking, and we're going down this thick willow trail. And I remember saying to him, because he brought up the word a couple times, so I said, man, it must have been so freaking brutal walking on a trail in a jungle with a possibility of a human being up ahead with a gun not moving. You know, like, we are so weak when it comes to our natural senses on average. Probably shouldn't be. I'll bet you we can be 100 times better with our natural senses than we are today, and I'm sure that I am positive that's intentional, because so many of us have accurate flares of our senses coming to work for us in our favor, right? Sensing things, going with your gut. I've been working on it a lot myself past few years. I'm getting a lot better for sure, but it just also tells me that we haven't been taught to use it, you know, and I wonder what else we haven't been taught to use. But anyway, what I'm saying is, let alone these beings who, it's a pattern. It's got to be a pattern. They can tell what our demeanor is before we even get out of the frickin' vehicle to walk into that forest. They know what's up. Right? How do you defend yourself against a being like that anywhere? just being a simple human being, right? Say I was going to go steelhead fishing tomorrow on that river I've shared here, a few rivers I've shared here, I don't know how many times. All right? One day there's a human being that decides he's going to blow me away. I'm too predictable. It's too easy. You know what I mean? Other side of the river and those trees. What are you going to do about it? Now you got something that can move basically the speed of frickin' light. Right? We're so weak. We are weak on average. In the real world alone. We are so weak. You'd have to be so frickin' lucky if one of these beings or whatever else is out there decided to have your ass. You would have to be so lucky to thwart that or get the first shot off or an accurate shot. It's just like with grizzly bears. I've shared with everybody how fast a grizzly bear is when it wants to be. It is a flash of brown fur. It's just a flash. And once you realize that, you realize, well, if a grizzly bear really wants me, it's going to kill me. That's all there is to it. It's going to wait for me on the trail. It's going to take me off my horse. There's nothing I can do about it. And that's fact. It's just a grizzly bear. I'm babbling, sorry. Here we go. This is titled, I Called One In Telepathically. All right, here we go. To the How to Hunt and Round Table of Knowledge families out there, be careful what you wish for. It may bite you in the arse. I did, and it has with me. After a trip to northern British Columbia in 2019 and a physical contact, I came away thinking, neat, you Sabe people do exist. Physical contact? My contact was in an email to you a couple of years ago. It was? I'll have to do a search in your name. My view after this was sympathetic to the forest people. They do no harm. Leave them alone. Give them room. I know, before we go down that sympathetic route, you got to understand how many times these people have come and tormented the living shit out of human homes, outside the window, staring at children through the window. They're not that innocent, all right? After watching your videos and many people saying there is a component of telepathy involved, sometimes by both parties, definitely by them in the form of mind speak. They appear to favor people with some form of these abilities. So I thought I'd give it a try. I've had weird shit going on my entire life. Seeing things which come true later. Getting stopped by an unseen hand before harm is done. Several times saving lives. Recently, a picture popped into my head. Head and shoulders of a man I have never seen before. At that time, I was operating a bulldozer, minding my own business. What the F? Stop briefly, have a good look, and carry on. 2 days later, this man arrives on a job site as a carpenter. After chat, a few days later, we have no common ground. No lost family member, no lost ties, nothing. Move on. Nothing to see here. Weird? Why me? Anyway, I consider myself qualified in the weird world. So one night in bed, lights out and relaxed, I sent out a telepathic message from here in New Zealand, miles from Sabe Central, to any Sabe to come to me. Nothing. Getting cheeky in my calls, expecting nothing, I said, I command you to come. And holy shit, a vision came in. Two, actually. One was a very large male standing looking straight at me. Just a flash. And then just the head and shoulders. Just like the carpenter. This was a picture of pure hatred. And in my head I heard, do not summon us, there is evil here. Well, that's the closest I've ever come to shitting in the bed. Every hair on wire. A jolt of electricity and instant fear. Out of bed, lights on. Bad, bad shit. Never, ever again. After it settled down, I began to think, is this a puzzle piece? Can we command them to us? Can we ask them to do things for us? Is this why they hate us? The huge male came. Did he have to? Or was he just warning us not to open the door we can't close? Someone else is more than welcome to try again, and it sure as hell won't be me. What is the other evil out there that gives me the creeps just thinking about it? By calling them, are we inviting others with bad intentions to enter our telepathic realm? And will they be guests we can't get rid of? I won't be trying that again ever. But it hasn't stopped my weirdness. It still goes on. I told my wife, who was driving in a hilly section of road with limited visibility, not to cut this corner as a truck was about to come around from the other direction. It did. Use my name. Randy Black, South Island, New Zealand. God's own. Thanks, Randy. Appreciate that, man. Sounds creepy to me, and I wonder how many people you just knee-jerked into giving it a go tonight. I've hunted the South Island. Out of the South Island, I got flown up and dropped off into the mountains via helicopter and ran around and camped out up there for a handful of days. Did a bunch of other crazy shit. Beautiful, beautiful place. And we have had people have emailed in sightings from New Zealand, and a police officer as well emailed us in with a sighting down there. They're everywhere. Hawaii has sightings. Maybe you're onto something. I don't know. I'll tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to try it. I don't need that shit. Like you said. I don't need that shit. It would suck to have to deal with something like this all the time from one point on in your life after being able to experience most of your life at peace, at bliss, and rocking it out and having a good time out there, to all of a sudden trigger something. No, you're not alone ever again. I'm going to be on your ass, letting you know I'm right here watching you every single day you go out in the woods from here on in, just because of what you did. You shouldn't have summoned my ass. Wouldn't that suck? That would suck. Now, this is titled Dogman, a Demon, and Something Even Weirder. Good morning, Steve. My name is Nick Court. Please share my name. This is supposed to be short and sweet, but it doesn't look like it, so sorry in advance. They say not all heroes wear capes, but I think we all agree Sarah should have some made for both of you. I hope she's recovering well. Thank you for the kind words, man. She's getting there. It's driving her bonkers. She can't go get her shopping done this week, but she'll be right back on it shortly to feed those children. I posted this in your comments section, but I think it's worth a read. I'm paraphrasing, so I apologize for any lack of detail. I spoke to a person in Joe Rogan's comments section on a video about the forest people. He said that he lived somewhere in the Middle East. He had an encounter with what we now know as a dog man. He called it a beast. He said he was carrying a baby sheep that had wandered off. He said the dog man approached him and pointed to the sheep. Scared, he then put the sheep on the ground and backed away slowly. He said the dog man took the sheep and left. The man was scared and in disbelief. This is about 4 or 5 years ago, just as your channel was starting to focus on the Sabe. A few people in the comments, including me, had told him to contact you. Being on Rogan's channel, a lot of people were making fun of him. He thanked some of us for believing him and standing up for him. I could tell he was honest when he said this, quote, "Thank you for not calling me crazy. I still can't get the image of its eyes out of my head. They were big and reddish orange," end quote. It wasn't until a year or so later people started writing in about the eye color time and time again. For me, that was a confirmation of the unfortunate reality of the forest people. Multiple unrelated witnesses reporting the same thing. I since then tried to look back on my comment history on YouTube and try to screenshot the conversation for you. His comments were deleted. Our replies are still there, but when you click on his account name, it says the account doesn't exist. I pray he's with us now at the round table and doing well. I've got 2 other stories that I've come across on my square people in the eyes and firmly ask if they've seen anything weird, end quote, approach to gaining knowledge. Hopefully they help other viewers of this channel and even encourage people into sharing their experiences. They are short and sweet, as they weren't really comfortable talking about it much. Second, a co-worker was camping with his son and his friends. One of the friends brought a Ouija board. Oh, those are creepy. He told them not to mess around with that stuff, but they did it anyways. He told me while they were playing with it, his son became possessed by a demon. He was screaming, quote, "It's in my head, get the F out of my head," end quote, and other things of that nature. Paul, my coworker, told me he then started shaking his son and revoking it in the name of the Lord. Then he said, a black, human-shaped figure came out of his son's mouth and then disappeared. That's shit I don't need in my life. They went home the next day. I told him I've heard of similar entities from our family here at the round table, that he might help someone by writing into you. He respectfully declined and told me I could if I want. He was relaying this to me fairly casually, and I asked him why he was talking about it like it was normal. He told me, quote, he was raised Catholic and was taught that the devil is always trying to get you, and if you invite him into your life, what do you expect is going to happen, end quote. I basically left it at that. Third, this one's through a friend of a friend. I was having a smoke with a coworker I met on my last job. We were talking, and he asked me what I thought about all UFOs and stuff that's now becoming socially acceptable to talk about. Yeah, isn't that pathetic? I told him if he heard half of the shit I've learned over the past few years, nothing would surprise him anymore. He asked what I learned, and I told him in short about your channel, the Sabe, the Dogman, portals, Mindspeak, etc. And importantly, the fear. He asked me how I knew if it was true, and I told him because I've heard the same shit about 500 times from different people all over the world. He then told me a story that his cousin had told him. He said that years ago his cousin was at his best friend's house and they were hanging out with the family. Then the friend told him that they wanted to show him something. There's a typo there, sorry. This is where it gets really weird. Again, paraphrasing. The friend went into his closet where it was dark and told the cousin to come in. He pulled the neck of his shirt down, and apparently his chest started to glow with a gold or yellowish color through his shirt and lit the closet up. What? Then he started to see some sort of scales forming through his skin and his upper chest. The cousin then felt an evil feeling, what sounds like your, quote, pressure, end quote, and decided to get the F out of there. You ever talked to the friend you grew up with again? What? No doubt. I asked for more details, but that's all Dan was able to relay to me, as he wasn't there himself. I told him I don't doubt him one bit because, like I said, nothing surprises me anymore. I've never heard anything like this before, Steve. I'm hoping this possibly helps someone. Maybe some of your brothers and sisters on the channel have knowledge or answers for us. And on a side note, there's some info that might prepare some of us for the sodomization of our country is about to receive in the upcoming years. I'm a union electrician from Toronto, currently working in the Windsor Battery Plant in Ontario. If anybody doesn't already know, the Green 2030 plan is certainly a go. They want to completely eliminate the production of gas, cars, in the next 6 years. Here's some of the work coming up in the next year. We've got multiple battery plants starting up, 8 different nuclear reactors being added into existing plants, and every car manufacturing plant is going to be shut down and redesigned to produce these electric cars. If you're looking for a job, it's a great time to become a union industrial electrician. What I'm expecting is a massive spike in our electricity bills and gas prices, and yet another way to control us even more. I think a hybrid will become the best option to save money because they charge while you're braking. Trudeau and his mob of RCMP officers were here for a photo shoot yesterday. May 14th, 2024, and if you're ever wondering how Trudeau can go on a job site without having an accident, they asked every worker to leave the building he was visiting and basically told us stay away from the cell building that he was visiting. Unfortunately, we couldn't go greet him. I really would have loved to go, quote, shake his hand, end quote. Yeah, me too. Steve, if you have any electrical issues or questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Send me pictures. I'll happily try to diagnose any problems. ask around to get answers for you, maybe help you to do it yourself. A lot of electricians are con artists and love to take advantage of people who don't know better. Yeah, it's a human characteristic with a lot of people in different fields, isn't it? Appreciate that offer, man. If you haven't noticed by now, I think it's pretty clear why you've lived through so many close calls with death. You've created something amazing here and helped a lot of people. If divine intervention was a person, it'd be you. Sorry for the book. I attached a photo of a wooden sculpture of a Sabe. I'm curious if it resembles anything people have seen, as well as a super clean rainbow trout that you might appreciate. Feel free to share feel free to share the pictures and my name. P.S. I've rarely seen anyone blow a gasket in the comment section here, so I'm not really sure who's giving you shit all the time, lol. But if you hear this, I believe I speak for 99% of us when I say this. Nobody likes you, can go F off. It's sincerely Nick Court. Okay, thanks, Nick. Appreciate the kind words, man. And the offers of help. Okay, there we go. There's one. Looks a little small in the body compared to the head to me. That's just me. What else do we got? Ooh, that could be a familiar little pose. A lot of people probably see that as looking familiar too, right? Excuse me. That's a sweet fish, man. That's a nice, perfect looking, excuse me, chubby rainbow right there. Sweet! Appreciate you sending that in. Yeah, it's pretty creepy what's going on, isn't it? With the, gonna kill all the gasoline cars. Meanwhile, the Earth needs carbon. But anyway, it's a shit show going on out there. 110% shit show. You're really concerned about the environment, right? How about those cruise ships? Don't they burn enough fuel in 1 year for the same as all the cars encounter some damn thing? There's all sorts of crazy-ass shit going on the planet when it comes to this. There's a huge lawsuit going down right now for the electric buses that were in Edmonton, Alberta. They didn't go very far during the winter. Go figure, huh? They didn't go very, very far during the winter. Good luck with your electric vehicles, you absolute shitbag Trudeau. Anyway, another topic. You know, it's funny when you become a so-called leader and you're here for the people and doing good for the people. Well, if that was the case, why do you need bodyguards everywhere you go? If you're such a good person doing good for the people. Anyway. Hey, Steve. I want to say, there is more than just Sasquatch out there. Anyone willing to do difficult research can find the stories from the First Nations people about the little people of the forest, which, accordingly to what I've heard, are one of the many reasons kids just vanish in the forest. Like that one handicapped kid David talks about, the one that ran up a dirt mound and then vanished on his dad. These kids' tracks go up the dirt mound, but then just stop at the top, and there's no sign of him from there. Some people are fortunate to meet them and get away alive and live peacefully knowing they met one, while others find out that they unintentionally pissed them off, either by seeing them or doing something to an area of land they claimed. I've had some strange shit go on in my life. I once told the story of a blonde-colored Sasquatch encounter when I was 8 or 9 here, camping at Devil's Hop Yard in Connecticut. Well, years later, down the road, my uncle and I decided to make a weekend of camping. I was maybe 16 at the time, and the day had waned on to where we had already had dinner, and it was dark, so we had the campfire cooking. We had the first spot on the left of the loop, where the spot I encountered the Sasquatch was in the thickly wooded area at the apex of the loop, where we were the only family. We were sitting there staring into the fire, passing a joint back and forth and taking shots of Southern Comfort. We had just sparked the joint right after finishing dinner, and the SOCO was opened while we were eating. So I don't know what possessed me to ask him this question, but I remember that I was going to tell him about the Sasquatch encounter. And then, 2 minutes later, I heard him say, "Hey, Steve, you want to come over for dinner?" I said, "Yeah, sure." He said, "Well, I got a But during the entire dinner session and him rolling the joint, there was this group of obnoxious yuppie hippies across the way. They've been drinking and obviously other things. I think one of them was tripping on shrooms. Maybe all of them, I don't know. But I remember that they had a camper and found an uprooted stump and put it in their fire. It's on its side. And they were burning their fire pretty high. One of those hippies had a guitar and was poorly jamming out tunes. Everything from the Beatles to Kumbaya. So it was about time they were finishing murdering while my guitar gently weeps that I got the courage up to say, quote, Tom, have you ever had a strange occurrence in the woods, say like while you were hunting or hiking or even camping? He licked the rolling paper he had rolled the joint with. Chris? He completed rolling the sparked the joint. I've run into more strange-ass things than I care to remember while in the woods, and some in my own father's house. I instantly wanted to know more. I was about to give my encounter when the hippies hit Kumbaya for like the, I don't know, let's just say sixth time and worst version than any of the times before. I stopped myself to swig up the bottle and looked over at their camp. Quote, God, I wish they would shut the... End quote. I stopped dead in my sentence because I heard something moving in the bushes next to us. And I had also noticed Tom staring in that direction as well. Only light we had was the fire. And all of a sudden, this short, two-legged thing, carrying a staff and wearing what looked like a hide toga and a floppy leather hat, bounded into our fire from the bushes. It was yelling. What I could only imagine was some sort of obscenities, and jumping up and down while showing it was seriously pissed off. By short, I mean, get a raccoon to stand up, and that's how tall it was. All I could make out for facial features was that it looked like a long-nosed, pointy-chinned man. The fire obscured him enough that that's all I could make out. They noticed that me and Tom were not the ones singing, stopped jumping up and down and yelling, waving his stick at us, snapped a look at the hippies, then back at us like the fire wasn't fazing him the least bit. And he darted to their campfire and did the same to them. Best ending the Kumbaya I've ever heard. Sorry, best ending to Kumbaya I've ever heard. Kumbaya, my lord, Kumba, what the F is that? They all dropped their shit and sprinted into the camper, and one of them had brought frickin' yuppie-type hippies. Shake my head. Okay, hold on. They all dropped their shit and sprinted into the camper one of them had brought. Frickin' yuppie-type hippies. Shake my head. The noise from their camp went silent, and me and Uncle sat there snickering and questioning what it was. Well, we finished the bottle and the pot before going to bed. It's one of the strangest things I've ever seen or will ever see. Maybe even one of the stranger reactions, too. Effing hilarious, too. It wasn't until just recently that I found a woman who described what I'd seen during a conference about the book she had written and how she had come across some people willing to talk about the little people of the forest, which she thought was a Cherokee myth that a friend had told her and she wrote a book about. But there was more and more evidence surfacing as she was digging up information about this myth. Turns out the college that she had been working at in North Carolina was a site that was notorious for these little mounds. They were finding small artifacts like tools and shoes. They were a perfect size for a small child, but we're talking like old gardening and construction type tools with wear and tear on them. They were definitely not kids' toys. She then came across some stories of the townsfolk finding small skeletons in one mound and small tunnels connecting to the mounds. And some of those tunnels were cut off by college buildings. It wasn't until she really started digging that she found out that every nation in North America warned about pissing off the little forest people. She tells the story of one person she contacted to discuss the little people of the forest who told her that he's had run-ins with Sasquatch. And at first he was scared of them. But the real danger is those little forest people. Sasquatch may watch you or play peekaboo where A little forest person will make your life a living hell if you piss just one of them off. And they're not dumb either. Like Sasquatch, they can be on top of you and you wouldn't know it till they're attacking you. According to her, many of the First Nations people say these things are the reason many of the people go missing in the forest and are never found. Not even their clothing. That the person never existed. Keep up the good work, Chris Hawkins. P.S. I'd be glad to send you an email of my one full-on encounter in Devil's Hop Yard, and the one semi-earshot, semi-eye-shot encounter in another park in a much more populated area, a suburban park. Okay, encounter what? These little midgets running around in the woods? Or Sasquatch? Now, the little person thing, it's not the little people of the forest topic, excuse me, isn't that common of a topic brought up here, but it's been mentioned quite a bit. Especially with all the First Nations people seem to talk about these little people, right? And I only laugh. I don't laugh at the topic. Where I laugh is I'm picturing some little dork the size of a raccoon jumping out of the forest being pissed at me, waving a stick around. How do you not laugh at that, right? But how do you go to sleep after that? Like, oh, that was pretty crazy. How do they make a human being disappear when you're not even knee-high? Or maybe you're knee-high, but you're making a human being absolutely disappear. How are you so ferocious? How are they so dangerous? How? The hows and whys, right? To date, I do not know one person directly who has seen a little person in the forest. Not me. Not yet. Like, that's just me and my circle of friends and co-workers in the bush and shit, right? It's an interesting topic, and obviously it's one that makes you go, come on. But anything's possible. We're here. We are here. We are walking upright made out of flesh and blood right now, but we're here. That means anything's possible. My Yosemite 1976 encounter. Email to Scott Carpenter. Steve, due to your last YouTube yesterday, holy cow, 2019, and expressed thoughts of people chasing their tails, scammers and bullies, I thought I'd like to read something positive. I really appreciate hearing how a friend of yours, I believe Mr. Scott Carpenter, helped me. After all, there's way too much negativity in the world. I am CC Mr. Scott Carpenter, who after this, his last week on this YouTube before. All right. Where's the start? Okay, a couple of... Okay, here's the email. Dear Scott, I feel embarrassed. I didn't realize I accidentally sent my email before I finished it. Thank you for your compassion and speedy reply. My encounter was in my early 20s. I'd gone camping with college friends in Yosemite. We'd been there a couple of days, and on the third, I had a fight with my boyfriend. Early evening before dark. I remember I ran into the forest and just off a path to sit and have a good cry. About 15 minutes had passed, and I had a strange feeling, and my body began to ache, hard to explain. I was in a sitting position with my head down, and my hands over my face, as not wanting anyone to see me. I remember looking up, and about 30 feet off to my left, I could swear to this day, I saw this gigantic, hairy, muscular being walk out of a portal or something, as it was in front of a boulder, not behind or a tree, unless it was invisible or something, and I didn't see it standing there when I sat down. The thought in my mind, besides being scared to death, quickly went to, I should stand up and walk towards it. I knew this was wrong and crazy, as it would be like walking towards a bear without any defense. That's odd, and that's alarming, right? In a matter of seconds, my feelings quickly changed to dread, and I shouldn't be there, as my boyfriend and friends, yelling my name, quickly approached. I seemed lost in the moment, not knowing what to do, and my head hurt, and I felt my energy draining. This brief encounter was only about 10 seconds, as I recall, before I glanced towards my boyfriend's voice calling me, as he was almost right there. And then I looked back at the boulder, and the scary being was gone. Not any sounds of it leaving, as it was when I saw it appear. Not any sounds of it leaving, as it was when I saw it appear. I didn't sleep that night at all, and insisted we go home first light. Of course, no one believed me and thought I had just seen a bear, and because I'd been crying and upset, they all thought I was just being emotional. In fact, I heard the others laughing later about the story I had told them. As I mentioned, I woke up around 3 a.m. most nights thereafter, having strange, weird dreams that I'm walking, and the thought and feeling is pretty much always the same. I'm lost, and I don't know which way to go. I still have this sense of dread. If it's really bad, I get severe headache. I do remember talking about Bigfoot and my experience years and years later when I was working late with my boss and some coworkers. I think they were talking about UFOs or something. I remember them not believing, and a few laughs. My boss did come up to me the next day and instructed me not to tell stories like I did. I worked at a local school district, and he said he wouldn't want any parents to think an unstable employee, me, worked with their children. Yeah, heaven forbid having somebody speak absolute truth in a public school system, right? That's not too good. I'm 65 years now and just retired after 30 years. Thus is probably why I'm speaking out now and have watched your YouTube and How to Hunt Steve Isdall's channel. You both have provided some form of I'm not crazy. I know what I saw. I do pray, and as far as counseling, wouldn't know where to begin. I'm currently raising a 2-year-old grandson and taking care of my very ill father by myself. I wouldn't want to jeopardize someone thinking I'm not fit to do so. You're a superhero, just so you know. You are a superhero, superhuman. So I rambled on, as you and Mr. Steve Isdall have now given people and myself a safe platform. I'm hoping after sharing this, I'll sleep better. I truly appreciate your kindness and support. Wishing you, yours, a happy, safe, and healthy holidays. Take care, Kat. All right. That's good to hear, when people find comfort, at least they're getting something. I think everybody's getting something good from sharing with all the people, right? Knocking out the control freaks, knocking out the bullshit, and everybody being here and just being honest human beings and relaxing and letting her flow. Just let it out. All right. Excuse me, one more. It's like fishing, right? One more cast. Okay, just one more cast. You take 20 casts every time you say that. All right, this is titled A Bigfoot Story. Hi, Steve. Watch your videos and pray for your safety. I think there's definitely a major spiritual component to these things. Here's my story. I'll try to be brief. It has 2 parts. I own a cleaning business here in Pennsylvania. We live about 40 miles south of the city of Erie, Pennsylvania, off I-79. One night around 2 a.m., I was servicing a fire hall. Nobody was there, and I had just dragged 3 large garbage bags to the rear of the building. I went to press the release bars on the big metal door and suddenly was filled with an angst about doing so. I told myself that it was only because I was out there alone. Before realizing what I was doing, I had reached up almost in an automatic fashion and began shaking the bar to make some noise. The whole thing seems weird as I look back on it. I pushed open the door and kicked the stop down to lock it open. Just then, a scream that seemed to come right out of hell came from the wood line about 30 yards away. I've never heard anything like that before. I describe it as an expression of malice, and some insanity rolled in with it. Whatever it was, it took off running, breaking large limbs that I would guess to be several inches thick from the sound of them. Every dog within a half a mile began to bark. Apparently this thing was going through the dumpster, and my rattling the door of bar gave it enough time to scoot to the wood line. Thank God. Several months passed, and I had an opportunity to see one of my brothers who lived in another town, and I told him my story. He listened, then told me that several of the things had attacked his house a few months before. He said he was alerted to their presence by loud slaps against the house. He went out on the back porch. It was dark, and he said he saw several huge, upright critters that were hiding behind trees and peeking around the trees. He said they had red glowing eyes. They tormented the family until early morning and then stopped. Thus was born my interest in Bigfoot. I'll leave you with my name and phone number so you know I'm not hoaxing you. I did not get permission from my brother to share his part of the story, and I would appreciate it if you share my story that you leave my name out. Okay, you got it. Name left out. And there you go. Another one. All right. Okay, it's a shit pile more as usual, but I gotta get ripping. Stuff to do. And I'm slowly getting to where I want to be. Been a frustrating few weeks, I'll tell you what. Haven't been in touch with basically anybody outside this house for a few weeks as I am rocking along on different projects. But anyway, side note of the electric car thing, you know, I'm done reading emails if my voice annoys you any further. So, the little runt that illegally managed to get his way into being whatever is called a leader in Canada, well, he's basically wedged right up the butthole of the WEF, right? And from the looks of things, he wants to be first with their grand scheme of things for the planet. He wants to be first. And that's where all this bullshit's coming from in Canada. He's just being first, right? But it's going to be amazing if they do. Let's just say they manage to make it illegal to have a gas or diesel powered vehicle for the people here in Canada stand. Who do you think's gonna be ripping around in the leftover gas operated vehicles? Right? What are the farmers gonna do? What are the farmers gonna do? Our food production. I'm gonna try. I better bite my lip. I could just go on and on. The insanity, man. The frickin' insanity around the globe today. Anyway, I'll talk on that later. Share my story at howtohunt.com. That's where you get your words heard, word for word. All right? You found your people. You found your safe place. Nobody's in control here. We're all equal. Or tell my story at howtohunt.com if the share my story doesn't work. And I do not unsubscribe people from here. And I cannot prevent you from putting down comments. I don't think I can. Maybe I can. But I don't. A lot of people say their comments, they try to comment and their comment gets deleted automatically. I don't know what's up with that. I haven't a freaking clue. But I do know that people get unsubscribed all the time. And I have a feeling it's probably the algorithm. However that works. It's the keywords spoke that I think that stops shit from going down. Like what we've said some things about the needle in the arm. That can make the channel go backwards. I think. What else? Speaking about the Nazi dictator in Canada, capital K. I don't know if Google has that much respect for that little midget yet or not. I don't know if that causes this channel to be hidden. Maybe, possibly. I don't know. What did I bring up? I brought something up a little while ago, and I did look on the creators app, and usually get I don't know how many subscribers. People subscribe here nonstop, without being asked to. And I said something about something that you're not supposed to, and new subscribers stopped dead. Stopped. Just like that. For a few days or something. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I wonder what happened. Right? It said something naughty. However they do it, but you can't have, I was pointing to Sarah, check this out. Sometimes there's like 600 new people a day, or a couple hundred, a few hundred. Man, there used to be 5,000 a day when it first came out. That was kind of bizarre to watch that go down. They get in 100 to 600, 500 every single day forever. And all of a sudden, stop dead. Whatever. We'll get to the bottom of everything, right? As long as everybody stays, we got to stick together. That's the key, right? We can't go at each other, can't fight with each other anymore. We got to stick with each other. I'm babbling like a moron. I got to get my butt in gear. And I'll be back tomorrow, guaranteed. Make sure you do something Make sure you do something you love to do this weekend, all right? Just try to. Even if it's for 10 minutes, I don't give a shit. You have to do what you love to do. All right? You have to. It's very, very important. All right?